It is only 2 more days until NFL football begins. Matt, how you feeling?
Are we there yet?
Oh, it is almost there for our favorite sport in the world. Getting to watch our teams hopefully not suffer brutally, but I'm not sure. Um, this is just gonna be interesting. It's a long-awaited season. Got a lot of new faces for both teams. Yeah, it's gonna both of our teams should look very different. Uh, Excited to get underway. Matt?
Are we there yet?
All right. Well, as always, we're gonna do our teams last, but we're gonna give our picks for the Pick'em League as far as just any analysis for key games we think. We're gonna try and keep it shorter this year around instead of getting in the nitty-gritty of each game. We're
30
really just gonna kind of,
hours.
huh?
30 hours.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Instead of doing that, we're just gonna, maybe each have a highlight of one game, maybe two, to keep things short. Other than that, we're just gonna, make our prediction, maybe say a reason real quick and move on with it. Try and keep this video at 30 minutes maximum. So with that underway, the first matchup is Baltimore at Kansas City, which I think is in both of our opinions, that is the key game to watch this year, or not this year, this week. As I think that's probably the most exciting game on the docket. I actually am going to pick the Ravens to win the regular season matchup. I think they're angry about the playoffs, and it's not Mahomes in the playoffs, so I think they're going to come in um, angry and they're going to lock in and win week one. Ravens also historically do well in week one. So give me the Ravens.
Normally, I would say maybe, but because Kansas City lost in the season opener after the Super Bowl last year to the Lions, I feel like they're just going to lock in. So I'm going with KC.
Fair enough. Both of these teams are juggernauts. So um, should do well. All right. Friday, we've got the green incarnation of Satan. I'm going to have, you know, gonna talk to Grassi about that later. And then going up against Philadelphia in Brazil. So apparently they're not leaving the hotels until the game. That was just announced recently, so that's interesting. But for the first time ever, I'm going to pick against the Packers and hope that I'm not wrong. I believe Philadelphia will win this game.
Um, I see this being a close game. I feel like Green Bay could have the potential, but news just came out earlier today that Romeo Dobbs was limited in practice, I think, with a hand injury. So if he's not 100% or not ready for the game, I feel like that's going to put a dent into the Packers' offense. And the Eagles just have so many weapons that are healthy to start the season. It's going to be difficult for Green Bay to keep up if they are not 100%. So going with Philly.
Not to mention Saquon behind a decent or good offensive line for once should be amazing to see just for his career. Moving on, we've got Pittsburgh at Atlanta. I tossed around this one for a couple seconds just because the defenses of these teams should both be pretty good, and both quarterbacks are new to the system. But with that being said, Kirk Cousins is a much better quarterback as of right now than Russell Wilson, and that team is stacked from all the things they've done in free agency. So give me the Falcons.
I'm going with the Steelers. I feel like that defense is going to be stout. Both offenses are going to struggle under new QBs in the systems. Um, Russell Wilson's been dealing with a calf injury for most of camp, and it's only been just recently that Kirk Cousins was allowed to practice again. So, going to be a lot of rust on both of them. So, it's going to be a low scoring game. Probably go with the under, but I'm going with Pittsburgh just because I feel like their defense is just a bit better to give their offense enough time.
Fair enough. Next up, Cardinals taking on Buffalo. Part of me actually did want to pick the Cardinals, but I'm not going to bet against Josh Allen week one, especially at home. I think they're going to want to open with a strong statement that despite losing a lot of key pieces, they're still a good football team. So give me the Bills.
Yeah, the Bills are tough to beat at home. So this being the season opener, Marvin Harrison doesn't have the full he's still young. It's probably going to take some time for him and Murray to get that a real good connection and chemistry. So yeah, I'm going with the Bills.
All right. Another one I tossed up a little bit was Tennessee at Chicago. I Will Levis in year two going on against Caleb Williams' first start as a Bear with that new offense. I'm going to give Chicago the win here. I think that they've got too many weapons there, and their defense is improved. Tennessee's figuring out things with the new coach, so I think they'll be a little bit slower to get started. But I honestly would not be surprised if Tennessee wins this.
Is DeAndre Hopkins back or is he still hurt?
I think he's questionable for the game, if I'm not
Okay,
mistaken.
so yeah, I'm going with the Bears. I just feel like there's so many weapons, and that team's going to be looking to make a statement early, unlike last year where they were wanting to make a statement and get absolutely obliterated by the Packers. So yeah,
All righty. Um, Bengals next.
yeah,
I feel like there's no explanation needed there. Um, Houston at the Colts. Now, I will say we did talk about this in our earlier videos about how this division is good at beating each other up, regardless of how good the other teams are. I don't think this is one of those moments, though. I think Houston wins this.
yeah. If this was like a couple weeks down the line, I feel like this would be a closer game. It's just I feel like Richardson's going to be needing to get off that rust of not playing for what everything but 4 games last year. And
Yep.
CJ Stroud just came off the playoffs where he played well.
Mhm.
So I feel like he's going to be coming back in still in rhythm where Anthony Richardson, it might take a few weeks to get him back in full motion. So going with the Texans.
Yep, exactly. Always difficult to bounce back from that type of injury, especially in your rookie year. Next up, we've got Jacksonville at the Dolphins. I think this is a pretty easy pick too. I'm going with the Dolphins.
Yeah, but I just feel like that offense is so much better. Hopefully, not sure about where the defense is at right now. They had a lot of injuries last year, but if they're healthy to start the season, it's going to be hard for Jacksonville to have any chance in this game. It might be close to begin with just because of week one
Yep.
rust, but Jacksonville's not prepared to be in a track meet, which I feel like this game might turn into.
Exactly. And again, they lost, a couple weapons in the offseason, and I don't think they can compare to Miami's explosive offense. Exactly. Next up, got the Panthers taking on New Orleans. I did say I think both of us said in our schedule that we could see New Orleans taking a loss to Carolina at some point during the season when we did our predictions for Carolina, but I don't think it happens in the Metrodome. So I think I'm going to take the Saints here.
Yeah, well, I don't. When we were doing our previews, I don't think the Panthers really got better anywhere. Didn't have their first round pick. The Saints didn't improve either, but just going off of what last year had, I have to go with the Saints and Derek Carr just because he's more proven than Bryce Young so far.
There we go. And moving on to skip my team because we're saving both of ours for last. We've got the Raiders taking on the Chargers. I'm going to take the Raiders in this matchup, who are not favored because Matt and I during our videos were high on two different teams in this division. I personally am high on the Raiders for second place in that division behind the Chiefs. I think the Chargers are going to struggle out of the gate. I mean, the run game should be pretty good, but Vegas has a pretty stout defense, and they're going to be able to hit you both ways. Whereas I think Justin Herbert will struggle with finding receivers, with Palmer likely being double covered the entire game, and Quentin Johnston likely still having bricks for hands. But we will see.
This one's interesting because I feel like it's going with a nothing on offense versus nothing on offense. Um,
Devontae Adams is nothing on offense.
who's the quarterback getting the ball to them?
Gardner Minshew,
We'll see how that
who's
goes.
always good for at least 5 games a season.
I don't think this is going
That's
to
usually all
happen.
it is.
Um, I'm going to go with the Chargers on this one just because I do not trust the Raiders QB situation, and I don't see them having they're going to be good on defense, but with the lack of offense, they're going to have to be in a really low scoring games. And I don't think this is a week that they're going to be able to hold the Chargers enough for their offense to get 3 field goals.
Hmm. I guess we'll see on that one. Alrighty. Moving on to skip Denver and Seattle, we're going to go to Dallas at Cleveland. Rematch from a couple years ago where Odell Beckham just went off on the Cowboys when he was with the Browns. Throwback to that great game. If you want to see a great football game that doesn't really have any bias with it, go watch that one. But Dallas coming off that horrific playoff loss, Cleveland coming off of a loss as well, but still dealing with Deshaun Watson coming back and not sure what his form looks like. I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys. CD Lamb's going to go off after getting that contract.
I would go with, because the weakness of Dallas's offensive line this year, I would potentially go for Cleveland, but with Nick Chubb being out for the first couple weeks, I just don't see Cleveland having enough on offense to keep up with Dallas. So I'm going with Dallas week 1.
I still can't believe Nick Chubb was available for me in round 11 of my 10-man league. So
Well, he's
that
not going to
is,
be there for at least for the first 4 weeks, and they said they're going to bring him back really slowly.
I know, but still, I think that's a steal. Keeping an eye on our roster spot. Anyway, moving on, I think both of us can quickly agree Tampa Bay will win that game.
Yep,
Okay. Baker Mayfield continuing to be good. Is this another one up next where we're just both gonna say Detroit?
yep.
Okay, yeah. That's
Well,
both of our Super Bowl favorites for the NFC.
I will say for Los Angeles, this is going to be probably one of those games that you want to pick the over for, and it's probably going to be the highest scoring game week 1. I just feel like Detroit has those pieces on defense to make a play here or there to get a stop. I do not see the Rams having any pieces to stop the Lions offense week 1.
I agree. And yeah, I would say other than the Baltimore and Kansas City game, that is probably the matchup to watch this week. So you got one for Thursday night and you got one for Sunday night. And then the Monday night matchup, Jets at the 49ers. Um, as high as I am on the Jets, this is the game. This is one of the games I had picked as their loss, especially because Aaron Rodgers does not do well against the 49ers. And the 49ers are at home and they still have Ayuk. So give me the Niners.
And good news for San Fran today. They already had IU coming back. Trent Williams has just signed his extension just a couple minutes before we started recording. And Christian, Christian McCaffrey, who's been dealing with injuries, also came back to practice today. So that roster where it seemed like there might be a few holes to start the season is going to be whole now. If they're at 100%, that might be something different. But I feel like in a week they should be okay. And I just feel like with the Jets at the 49ers, that's just going to be a tough game for them. Where even if the 49ers aren't 100%, even just being around 80-90% of their usual strength will be enough
Mm-hmm.
to beat the Jets.
And taking the matchup out of it, Aaron Rodgers, this is basically his first start with the Jets since he basically didn't have a start last year. So I think
There's going to be
just
rust.
getting acclimated, having the rust, exactly, come back from that injury. Again, he's still Aaron Rodgers, so he could shock the world, but I'm more looking forward to them winning a game in week 2 or 3 versus them winning this one to start off. So
I
with that,
will
I think
say,
we'll move on to our picks. Oh, sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
I will say Monday could have the funniest thing ever because it's the Monday night week 1, and the same player that hurt him Monday night last year is playing for the 49ers. I think it's what,
Yep.
Leonard Floyd?
Yeah. And I hope that does not happen, but if he gets hurt, whether or not I know what the injury is, I will be switching that pick with the allocation that we both gave each other.
The
Earlier.
circumstances would be insane, though.
It would be, and I would seriously question that. I mean, you looked at Kirby Joseph, who I was, very angry with last season, taking out both Tyler Higbee and TJ Hawkinson. then you look at this player taking out Aaron Rodgers twice potentially. If that happens, I think you then got to look an eye at that guy and be like, "Yo, what's going on here?"
Well, I don't think
So
he's trying to hurt him. You don't. What wasn't
yeah, I don't
Achilles
think
or
anybody
something?
is, but it just makes you look because the same, especially if it's the same type of injury, because that was what Kirby Joseph did to both Hogginson and Higby. They were both the same injury. For Hawkinson, it was both the MCL and ACL, but still, it was just kind of one of those things where you're like, huh, in 2 weeks, that was how it happened. Or 3 weeks, I think. Um, and then now this would be back to back years if it's another Achilles, but hopefully, and Trent Williams, as of right now, making this video, just got restructured 3-year contract for the 49ers. So another reason to pick the San Francisco 49ers. I'm glad we made this video now, and while we're talking about this game, that is so weird.
The news that
Okay.
actually come out 30 minutes ago. ESPN's just slow as hell. I got that same notification too. So nice try, bud. But that it's been out for 30 minutes.
Oh, well, my bad. I just got the notification, so yep. All right. Well, I've been going first with all these picks, so Matt, I will give you the honor of having your game first and let you run
I
away
was
with it
just
for a
gonna
little
say
bit.
the Minnesota game because that's the earliest one. But I'll go first for both of my picks for them. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Minnesota versus the Giants. I just feel like there's nothing left on that roster. You might have a few issues with the Giants off or defensive line, but other than that, if you don't win this game, not say I'm gonna laugh at you, but y'all should win this one.
Am I rebuttaling or are you going on to your game?
Rebuttaling.
Okay. Um, I will say that I'm also picking the Vikings, another first for the channel, aside from like beginning of last season, because at that point I was picking pretty much Green Bay and anyone who played Minnesota to try and have one good thing come from it every week. But I do think to start this off, I will try to be optimistic. It is the Giants. Sam Darnold, though, we don't really know what he's going to look like. He's been moving around a lot to different teams. I hope that having the weapons on the offensive line that we have, that situation will give him enough firepower to win this game and show Minnesota fans some hope, which Minnesota is really good at giving us and then taking us away very late. So I think that we are set to win this game. I am also threatened by not just their defensive line, but their string of receivers. Wan'Dale Robinson tore us up twice in 2022, and I think that just his speed getting around our cornerbacks tend to not have good coverage. But hopefully, with Stephon Gilmore and Shaquille Griffin and Byron Murphy actually getting to play in the slot instead of having to cover on the outside, will give us a bit of an edge and never count our safeties out. So and Brian Flores just being a mastermind on defense, I will take the Minnesota Vikings and hope that I'm not wrong. If we lose to the Giants, I will be picking every team that faces Minnesota
Bro.
because I will have no hope after that.
Well, going on to the Seattle game, not much to talk about here. Denver's gutted. The only like great player on that roster is Patrick Surtain. They have nothing on offense. Bo Nix could be decent, but I don't exactly see that either. Going with Seattle on this one at home.
I agree. Seattle's the pick here. You guys just got better on offense and likely better on defense with your first round draft pick. I'm not sure how big the safety losses are going to be, but I don't think you're going to see that change with Denver.
Jamal
I don't think,
Adams was out half the year last year, or like
yeah,
80%
but losing
last
Diggs
year.
as well. I mean, you like just not having proven safeties on your roster. I think that we're not
One
going to
of our
see the
starters is Julian Love, who started for us for most of the time last year. So,
gotcha. There's at least one guy, but I don't think you'll be very much battle tested in that position group against Denver. Um, I
yeah.
will say that I'm not going to say I'll laugh at you if you lose this game, but
I'm gonna be really upset, and there's gonna be some desk slamming when we record this next video if we do.
Yeah, I will also say that it'll be kind of like added because your loss will be at home, whereas ours will not only be on the road, but it's at MetLife, which is famous for breaking a lot of things. So I'll at least have some excuses. But yeah, I think you're far and away the better team, so you should win that game and home field advantage. So I think the only thing you got to worry about is just how good Bo Nix can be. And I still think Denver has a pretty stout defense. Just watching their preseason games, their second and third string defense look pretty
Tyler,
good.
Tyler,
But
it's
their
preseason.
first string, we'll have to see what they're going to come up with.
It's preseason, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm just if they've got the depth, we'll see what happens. They might make some changes, but I'm not reading too much into it though, and they're definitely not stopping the Seattle Seahawks offense. So
They played the Colts, Packers, and Cardinals. Come on.
yeah, I mean, I saw some good stops. So I'm
Cardinals didn't play Murray. Packers didn't play Jordan Love. And then they gave up 30 to Sam Ellinger, Jason Bean, Kadone Slovis, Joe Flacco, and Anthony Richardson, all taking combined 26 passes.
I mean, Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco were both well, Anthony Richardson would have been playoff in my opinion, and Joe Flacco was playoff caliber last year, so
This is
but
Richardson only
anyway,
throwing four of those.
yeah, I'm saying for a bad team, their defense looks better than what we would expect. But
Well, we'll see next week. Or
yeah,
by
I think my words were taken a little bit out of context. So or I didn't say what I meant to say. So anyway, yeah, Seattle's the clear winner here. And I think overall, I'm just excited to see how this Minnesota team looks. I mean, first time without Kirk Cousins in a while, which will like full season. So this will be very interesting. And finally having Jalen Naylor hopefully healthy for the majority of the season will be interesting because he is a very serious deep threat. And not just that, but also a slot guy. I think it'll be great to have him, and then Tristan Jackson balled out for us in preseason and in training camp. So I think that they're looking to get him more in the mix. They just had a press conference today that said Brandon Powell's focusing more on special teams. So I really think that wide receiver 3 and 4 spots are going to open up to Jalen Naylor and to Tristan Jackson. So it'll be exciting to see Sam Darnold and 2 new receivers out there, potentially. And yeah, I'm excited for the running game with Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler. I think that'll be a good duo in the backfield as well. So
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this. A lot of our pieces, yeah, we've gotten new players in, players have left, but mostly the key weapons on offense have stayed the same, and our cornerbacks on defense or our cornerbacks have stayed the same. Most of our offensive line, other than Murphy's, been the same. Just excited to see how these coaches and coordinators come in and change things up. Bears, have fun with Shane Waldron. He sucks. That's all I got to say. It's bad when NFL players, former Seahawks, are able to see the offensive formation and say, this is what the play is going to be. And then it's that play. And if they can just tell just from the formation what you're running, you're telling me those defenses don't know what you're running just by your formation?
you're making me tear up, man. I'm remembering the Packers when they had Joe Barry.
I'm excited to get Ryan Grubb in here and see what he does with this offense. The first drive of the who were we against? Browns game, the last preseason game, the offense looked pretty good. Um, Geno Smith only had one miss pass. The rest he was really good on. I think the first one was just getting some jitters out, some rust off. Um, Rustam looks good, so I'm excited to see what he's going to open up for this offense. Defense going to really be interesting to see McDonald's um, scheme. Heard a lot about it, so we'll be excited to see what he does with this defense. And we got a lot of good pieces, so hopefully, I don't expect it to be the Ravens level of success just because the amount of like great players that team had last year with Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, and others. I don't see it translating immediately, but hopefully next season or so we'll be saying this is Legion of Boom 2.0 or whatever they want to call it now. So
There
excited
we
to get
go.
to it.
I did decide to save this for the end because you mentioned both your offense and defense. I just mentioned the offense. I wanted to save this for kind of like a game a little bit. Obviously, I hope Dallas Turner has a great coming out party, first game in the NFL. But I wanted to do a little over or under with you, Matt. Over or under 2 interceptions for the Minnesota Vikings defense. You can also take even if you wish.
Even.
Okay. Over or under, we'll say 6 sacks for the Minnesota defense.
I'm pushing that one. 6.
6. Okay. So even for both, and then over or under 1 fumble recovery.
Ooh. Because he likes to fumble a lot, but he recovers most of them. We'll push that one too.
Okay. I'm gonna take the under on the interceptions. I'm gonna say it's gonna be 1. I'm gonna go even on the fumble recovery and say 1, and I'm gonna go over on the sacks. I'm gonna say hopefully we get 7 or 8. But I don't think we're going to do Seattle at 11 because I don't think the Giants are going to allow that to happen again. But if they do, man, am I going to be high off that defensive performance
That was
next
the
week.
funniest thing last year, getting 11 sacks.
And I mean, I don't think much of their offensive line has changed. And we've got not only do we have a good pass rush, but we also have safeties that like to blitz. So, I mean, that's why I like the sack ones. I don't know. I mean, I hope Daniel Jones chooses to just turn the ball over to us all the time, but we'll see how it goes. But anyway, glad we could end that with a game. We'll see what happens. And that should about wrap it up for this video.
Yes, sir. We're finally
All
here.
right. Oh, and for those who don't know, the picture on the right is Tom Grossi, our favorite NFL YouTuber. His reaction video to the Vikings signing Aaron Jones, which is my favorite part of the offseason.
And then Drew Lock in the win versus the Eagles after his game winning touchdown in the rain. Probably the happiest moment of last year, other than the 11 sacks. I had forgotten about that, but beating the Eagles at that time after we had lost, I think it was 4 straight. It was a
Yep.
much needed win to a lost season eventually, but at the time it was great. So,
There we
peace.
go. And with that, go Vhawks.